Hello everyone. On the 10th of July, Nvidia's market capitalization reached $4 trillion. A few days later, it added another 5%, reaching up to $4.2 trillion. And that's how most people reacted. Nvidia! Nvidia! Buy Nvidia! But my reaction was to pause for a little while and reflect. I trust mathematics. So I thought, let's divide $4.2 trillion on the human population on Earth, which is 8.2 billion people. Easy math. The result is $512. This is the value of an average computer for every person on Earth, including newborn children, the elderly who have never used computer, never thought of using the internet, never know what AI is, or never heard of something called Nvidia or GPU. This also includes nomadic Maasai tribes in Africa, nomadic Tuareg in Africa, tribes in Tibet who never use the internet or AI, who even don't have smartphones, and homeless and poverty people who don't have smartphones, don't have access to the internet, who barely could find a little amount of food for their survival. $512 is the value of a computer to every one of those on Earth. This is the current market value of Nvidia. According to statistics, 2.6 billion people on this planet don't have access to internet or computers. And I don't think the remaining 5.6 billion people on Earth exclusively use Nvidia or Nvidia-powered AI. So what? I like math, but actually I'm not so good at it. So I asked AI the following question. As you can see, I didn't tell AI the name of the company. A company has the current market capitalization of $4.2 trillion. Its shares value is $170. Every day from this date to the end of the year, it adds 1% to its value. How much the value of this company will become by end 2025? Of course, excluding weekends and public holidays. AI first calculated the trade days in the US. Then it came up with this amazing result. If Nvidia grew 1% each business day, its market capitalization by the end of 2025 will reach, ta-da, $13.3 trillion. Every 1% adds to Nvidia's value between 40 and $50 billion. This is just 1%. If it continues growing like that, it will add $1.8 trillion to its value every single month. Please do not underestimate the word trillion. It's a very huge number, by the way. But come on, 1% every business day is too much and too optimistic, and it's not reasonable. There are some setbacks in the market which will push its value down from time to time, right? Okay then, let's ask AI if Nvidia grows 1% every week. It is Nvidia, and 1% every week is not impossible for Nvidia! How about if growth was 1% per week? AI is taking a few mathematical steps and ta-da! If growth was only 1% per week, Nvidia will add another $1 trillion to its value after 5 months and will more than double its value by end of 2026, reaching almost $9 trillion. Wow. Let's buy Nvidia. Let's sell our houses and buy Nvidia. Let's sell our clothes and buy Nvidia. But let's move deeper into mathematics and ask AI, what if such growth, 1% per week, persisted until the end of the decade? And the end of the decade, by the way, is not too far. It's just 4.5 years away from now. AI is doing the usual math. Wow! $40 trillion. That's actually the equivalent of the total national debt or the GDP of the whole United States of America by that time. In other words, Nvidia's market value by 2030 will be the equivalent of all that the US produces in that year. Cars, heavy machinery, minerals, patents, rockets, weapons, food, manpower, services, everything. At the end of the day, it's not the gambler, but mathematics who's gonna win the game. The laws of this universe are undefeatable and inevitable. So let's go back to AI and travel deeper in our mathematical quest about Nvidia. First, I asked AI if it can guess what company it is. It's AI, of course, and it guessed that what I'm talking about is Nvidia. And now to our important question. Do you think such growth is reasonable or logical? First, AI provides some details. I say short term it's plausible because of the AI boom. But long term, it's not sustainable due to the law of large numbers, according to which such a growth becomes mathematically and economically unsustainable. Other factors are market saturation and valuation pressure. And of course, $8.8 trillion by end of 2026 or $40 trillion, the equivalent of all the US national debt by 2030, it does not reflect the real value of Nvidia. If a trillionaire is now offered to buy Nvidia for $4 trillion, even a little bit less than its current market value, would that trillionaire buy Nvidia for $4 trillion? I doubt so, because all of Nvidia's foundries, patents, chips, production lines, everything does not amount to $4 trillion. Then AI tells the bottom line. And I like it when AI tells the bottom line. 1% weekly growth for 6 to 12 months. Mind you, for 6 to 12 months only. Sounds possible, but still aggressive. However, after 12 months, i.e., by mid-2026, it becomes unlikely to sustain. And it becomes highly unlikely after 2028. Highly unlikely. I trust mathematics more than I trust agencies or investment analysts. And by the way, who do you think rules global economy? The US, China, Musk, Trump, BlackRock? None of those. Mathematics rules our global economy. After all, our global economy is based on what? On numbers and equations. How about supporting mathematical evidence, which I fully trust, with some qualitative analysis? Humans never stop repeating the same error, which is greed. An error which blinds our eyes to reality and truth. For several years, I worked as oil and energy market analyst, and the trend always goes as the following. When oil prices go up, greed pushes investors to pump more money into oil projects, to increase production, to produce more oil and sell at a high price. Prices are high, I produce more, I sell more, I get more money. It's very simple. But what happens next? Oil will be available in plenty, and its price then will dramatically drop. Increasing production has an inverse effect, oversupply, which leads to market glut and a sudden drop in prices. All enterprises do the same all the time. When there is a hype, they produce more and more, and they pump, and investors pump more money into that hype until there's a market glut, oversupply, and then all of a sudden, everything drops down. But this is Nvidia, an AI revolution. Okay, let's ask AI itself. Apparently, AI demand and internet access are still growing, which sounds good. But there is a catch. Efficiency improvement and completion of scaled-up infrastructure, together with competition, overproduction, and limited global access, will lead to lower demand and oversupply. And the bottom line. The answer to the question, do you think such a growth is reasonable and logical, is simply no. Demand won't grow exponentially until the end of the decade. And a surplus scenario is very likely in less than 2 years' time, 2027. I will add something that AI did not think about. That's because we humans are still smarter than AI. This whole AI industry will face fierce competition from other sectors. Now, because of greed and the AI craze, investors are pumping huge amounts of money into that sector, ignoring other sectors, or maybe even taking money from other sectors and pumping that money into AI. Underinvestment in other sectors will lead to scarcity in the products of those sectors, which in turn will push the prices of the products in those sectors and make them more profitable than AI. And then what's going to happen? Investors will take the money from AI and follow where greed is, where more profit is. They will pump the money into those sectors, such as heavy machinery, clean energy, and food. Imagine if 1 kilogram of apples becomes more expensive than a 6-month subscription to AI. What's going to happen? Investors will move their money immediately from AI to apple farming. Higher prices are greed magnets. And what do you think drives investment and investors in this world? Innovation? Helping people? Doing something good for people? None of that. It's only one word: greed. Investors are driven by two forces. One that pulls them backward, fear, and one which pushes them forward, greed. Once the value and the profit of other sectors become higher than AI, what do you think investors are going to do? Stick to AI? Of course not. Investors in droves will take their money from AI and put it into the more profitable sectors. And you can imagine what will happen next. After all that, do you still believe in Nvidia and AI as a long-term sustainable investment tool? Or like me, you trust mathematics more than JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, or Eric Fonzi? Who's Eric Fonzi? For short term, yes. If no surprises happened, Nvidia's share price may touch $200 by the end of this year or even before that. But for the long term, we need to think not twice, but 10 times before we trust our savings to such a high. Please be very careful when you invest your savings. Your savings are the energy that you have accumulated throughout the years. Once you lost your savings, you lost a huge amount of energy, and sometimes it's unrecoverable. Think 10 times and please consult mathematics before you consult investment advisors. And believe me, most of them tell nonsense. Once you lose your money, your investment advisor would blame it on interest rates, global economy, Trump's tariffs, Superman, Spider-Man, maybe the Joker, but they will never put the blame on themselves and they will never reimburse you a single penny. Before you start investing or trading, I recommend reading 3 books. The first book was published 14 years ago, Thinking Fast and Slow, by the Nobel Prize winner, behavioral economist Daniel Kahneman. The other 2 books are a little bit ancient but iconic. The first one is Psychology of the Crowd, written more than 100 years ago by the French sociologist Gustave Le Bon. And the second one, not the Bible, no, sorry. The Bible tells about dragons and unicorns. We need something more realistic. The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli. Yes. There are three main engines that move our social life, including the stock market. Those engines are the individual, the society, and the leader. Kahneman's book helps us understand how individuals think and behave. Le Bon's book helps us understand how society thinks and behaves. And you can guess, Machiavelli's book helps us understand how leaders think and behave. Understanding those three factors, the individual, the society, and the leader, helps us become more efficient when dealing with anything related to human beings, including investment and the stock market. And remember, before you trade or invest your saving, consult mathematics and common sense. I usually like to thank AI at the end of the conversation, so to receive some concluding remarks. And these are the remarks that AI sent me after we concluded our conversation about Nvidia. Thank you for watching. Please hit the like button and drop me any comment and criticism you find suitable. And subscribe to my channel for more videos on travel, adventure, and reflections on life and on us humans. Goodbye. See you later.